Good evening, Warriors! Back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Hope you guys are doing well. Our temperature's risen a little bit here in the Midwest, but we're still great weather, and I love the cool atmosphere we're at night. So I'm taking a break for a second, so I give a chance in my car to do a video. Hope you guys are doing well. I get my car down here so we can talk better. Thank you guys again for all the comments, all the likes, all the donations. We appreciate all the comments and being able to kind of create more content for the channel. And I think we're approaching almost 2,000 subscribers, so that's phenomenal. And I just feel very blessed that we're getting this information out, and it's helping you guys. So this one, we're going to do a combination, a couple here, because I love, I'm going to shout out to Eduardo, and a shout out to Indigo Sage. Both talking about, in one sense, inventor, Newton, and talking about, Eduardo talking about Nietzsche. So let me talk about Nietzsche first, and then Eduardo. So we talk about semen retention. The quote that Nietzsche said, and this is from Eduardo, the reabsorption of semen by the blood is the strongest nourishment and perhaps the stimulus of power. So we talk about the whole idea of retention and why it's something that creates power. It's because that's your energy that you're keeping within your system. You're not releasing it all the time and just willy-nilly sending it out. It's something that you become very strong with. And not only does it give you strength physically, but obviously it gives your mind a chance to be creative more, to use a lot of more imagination, and to become very strong in getting things accomplished. And so whether or not you agree with the performers we talked about, Michael Jackson, whether you agree with Nietzsche, whether you agree with Newton, in fact, and Newton's another one, an inventor, philosopher, or Edison, what you have to do is admire the energy level they had to accomplish things. Can you actually imagine any one of these people we're talking about? A Michael Jackson, a Mike Tyson, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Newton, Edison, Nietzsche. We're talking about other philosophers, Rousseau, back in the French Revolution. You're talking about, people now, Winston Churchill. Can you really see these people releasing all the time? Of course not. Of course they may have had, obviously, kind of interactions and intercourse and sex with people, and they perhaps released at those times. Obviously, they have children and things like that. But they didn't sit around going over, looking at pictures all the time and wasting their time over and over again releasing. They had other things to do. And so we talk about this. Nietzsche found out in his own experiences the fact that the longer you keep your semen in the blood, the stronger you become. And that makes more sense, right? If you're absorbing the semen by the blood, so the blood is sitting there going back into the semen, and the strongest nourishment, he says, and perhaps the stimulus of power. And that is part of a great quote that I find very fascinating that Eduardo gave us. So shout out to you, Eduardo, on this. I think it's important to understand that the creative mechanism to understand this point comes from the fact that this person was focused. Now, you may agree, may not disagree with the philosophies that he gave, or any other philosopher for that matter. But the energy that they've done to actually give thoughts, to focus on things, to create things, is a very positive thing. And because of those type of things, all of a sudden, you see the worth, the advantage of people accomplishing a lot of goals, a lot of things. The same thing we talk about Newton, and Indigo Sage talks about this. You look at all the philosophies, and I teach a lot of physics during the day, so we have Newton's law of collision, repel, attract, all those type of things with energy. First law of conservation, second law, all these type of laws. He came up with a bunch of laws and different things and a great number of inventions. And where did that all come from? That was the idea that he gave of trying to figure out what was happening in the world around him back in his era. And where did that come from? Well, that came from all his energy. Non-stop working, just like Edison, creating inventions, creating different things all the time. Where does that come from? That comes from a huge level of energy. Now, do you think he was releasing all the time? Chances are he was not. The same thing with people like Shakespeare, the same thing with anybody, Edison, all these people that developed great inventions for us. A lot of them were working day and night. They had no time to sit there and release. They just continued to work hard on what they were doing. And this indicates to you and to me that this person was fully invested in what they were doing. And we go back to that and saying, inventors, philosophers, we talk about these people. They came up with great ideas in the world. They've come up with great inventions in the world. A lot of that's because they're dedicated to what they believe in. And they're dedicated to come up with answers about life's problems. And whether you agree with it or not, what you do have to admire is their energy level in doing these things. And this is why we go back to the energy of a person who is strong in power. When we mean power, we mean by a lot of things. Not only the physical power, but the mental power, the spiritual problem. We talked about the power a person has. And that permeates through all that person's abilities. So they're strong not only physically, but they're strong mentally. They're able to be creative. They're focusing on other things. They're transmuting that energy into creative ideas and trying to solve the world's problems. And so when you go back to whether it's Newton or Edison, Nietzsche, any kind of philosopher look at, even the ones you may not agree with, their level of energy to come up with a lot of these type of things was astronomical. You may not agree with a person like Napoleon, for instance, but Napoleon's energy level was immense because he continued to use and transmute all of that energy that could have been chasing women around, basically to use that to get things done. And you see this all the time. A bodybuilder uses these energies to build that person up. Don't waste your energy focusing on women and pictures and throwing things out, getting the energy lost on bed sheets and whatever you're doing. Because that's going to kill you, my friends. And the whole idea here is that you may not ever become someone like a great philosopher or inventor, but you will contribute with God's purpose in your own way if you continue to retain and use that energy for other things besides chasing women around. And I can't emphasize the importance enough of what we see. And I don't care, it could be a celebrity like a Michael Jackson, it could be a boxer. We talked about Mike Tyson. We talk about any person who's had any sort of significant kind of contributions. You could see that person at one point in their life was a strong retainer because they use that energy for other things. Can you ever imagine a person who's releasing 4 or 5 times a day? How could they ever do anything else? They're probably so exhausted by that time, they're not going to come up with inventions. They're not going to come up with philosophies. You know this by seeing this. And so whether you're talking about a person like Shakespeare, and it doesn't matter if you really agree or not with their philosophies, you may totally disagree with them. And that's obviously our right to do that. But you do have to look at their energy level and their commitment to what their ideas were, and that shows you how important retention is. Because these people are not sitting around just looking at pictures all day long. They're focusing on getting the work done that is in front of them. Whether it's experiments, whether it's trying to come up with philosophies of life, looking at things, observing things, they're focused 24/7 on trying to get these things done. And this is important. And if you continue being that way and you're focusing on goals and you're focusing on those things you want to achieve and you don't stop for any reason, you're not going to worry about those other things about releasing. And of course, you may have situations where a person approaches you, but the thing is, they're distractions. You need to realize that it's more important to focus on my goals and move ahead than it is to get caught by distractions. But you will be distracted. and you're being immersed in goals and things you're doing, and somebody comes along, they're attracted to you, and they give you that look, and all of a sudden you're tempted. But you got to be strong. You got to be strong, remembering all these great people that lived before us. Those people who we know just by the fact that they did all this work, they're not going to be, they're not going to be releasing all the time, because they cannot release and achieve all these things at the same time. They have to be focusing on these things, spending long hours working on these things. And you can look at the biographies of Edison. You can look at the biographies of all these people we're talking about here. They accomplished a lot of things, right? But they spent a lot of time doing that. And those type of people spend 24 hours, 7 days a week, and they're not going to sit there and go ahead and be releasing all the time, because they wouldn't have time to do anything else. And that's kind of the idea that we want to perceive in this type of episode here, is the idea that we are a strong entity. The power is immense, but you can't use the power if it's sitting there and you're not transmuting it. If you're sitting there just releasing all the time. So find some goals, continue to have some passion, and figure out, what is it do I want to accomplish in this world? What is it that I'm going to contribute to this world? And once God gives you that purpose and you understand it, put full amount of effort into it, and you won't have any trouble with retention. You won't have trouble with releasing it all, because you're going to be so wrapped up into these other types of things, you have no time to bother with it. All right, so once again, shout out to Eduardo. Great comment on Nietzsche, and also by Indigo Sage. Great comparison with Newton and SR. I love it. I think you guys are right on target with both. Both people have great things to say, even though you may agree, we may not agree. What you got to think to yourself is that the amount of effort and time these people put into learning and to try to make something better in this world, they got to be on retention at some level. And that was really probably very important. So if you ever do research on people, obviously you're not going to find out if they're on retention, but you can just imagine they are. Well, Michael Jackson, all these people we talk about, because they've achieved so much, they got to put so much time and effort into it, they don't literally have time to be releasing. All right, my friends, once again, have a great evening. I want to say two things again, as you know I always do. First of all, every new day is a wise and great day to a great warrior. I didn't say it right, but you know what I'm talking about. Have a great day tomorrow on this. And second, my friends, continue to battle on! Battle on, my friends! Battle on!